And without further ado, I am going to introduce our first speaker, Monica.
Hey everybody, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here with you. So the phone rang, cutting off sleep. I still remember the sound of the shrill, the ring, ring, ring. A phone ringing in the middle of the night could only mean one thing: something bad happened. I turned and I looked at the red eyes of the digital alarm clock looking back at me. It was right at that moment that I heard my mom scream, "Mo, wake up." I sat up and I could smell it before I could see it. Fire. Our neighbors had called us to tell us that the corner bodega, that bodega right there, was on fire. And my bedroom sat just 3 short floors above the blaze. See that air condition? That was my window. I didn't have an air conditioner back then, though. And at that point, I had never even lit a match before. So the fact that there was fire climbing up my building had me shook. I tossed on my clothes and I run to my mother's bedroom. And I'm surprised because she's more panicked than I am. So pulling it together, I'm like, "Ma, you gotta calm down. Ma, put on some pants, your culo's hanging out. Ma, please. All right, we gotta open up the fire escape gate, lift up the latch. Ma, please get out of the way, I'll do it. Ma, please stop crying. We gotta go." Eventually, we made our way down that fire escape and into the crisp, cool air of the Bronx night. I remember because we didn't have time to grab jackets. A few hours later, I sat in the classroom of my very white Catholic school, and nobody had suspected a thing. And I did this thing where I was kind of like low key trying to sniff the lapels of my navy blue blazer. And I wondered, can they smell it? Did the smoke and the fire seep into the fabric of my blazer? Was it on my skin? I guess nobody could tell because everybody moved around in their own worlds like nothing had happened, not suspecting a thing. My mom had this saying, never air your dirty laundry in public. So I sat there like a diary, quiet as kept, holding on to the secret. I was 12 years old. Now, it's a funny thing that day. I remember looking around the room and thinking, wow, they move around with such ease. And I wanted that ease. I wanted to know what that ease felt like. So I tried to be like them. I would spend time in their neighborhoods because they weren't coming to mine. I tried to dress like them. I convinced my mom to buy me these khaki pants with these front pleats that they all wore. Thick thighs and a big ass should never wear front pleats, but here I was, trying so desperately to look like them. I tried to get my curly hair to look like them. I'd buy all these products in my allowance, and it never worked. But I wanted the ease of not having a decision to be bigger than do I use gel or hairspray. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever lived with these dual identities, but this was my experience, and it can be completely exhausting. And so, all through college and well into my life in corporate America, I oscillated between these two worlds. I had door knockers and Timbs on my feet when I was on the block. I had a red plaid skirt and leather shoes when I was at school. Hip hop at home, rock music with the other kids. And so it kind of felt like Clark Kent when he steps inside the phone booth and he comes like Superman. Like you're constantly changing outfits, you're changing identities. And all I really wanted was that ease that they had. So when I got to corporate America, if you called me like my friends did, they'd hear a voicemail that kind of sounded something like this: "You've reached Monica. I'm unable to answer the phone right now." And they would laugh and leave messages saying, "Who the fuck is that person?" But they didn't understand it. They hadn't had to spend time in these white worlds trying to assimilate, and they didn't know anything about the ease. Do you know that I actually took tap dancing lessons? That's not a metaphor. I actually tried to learn how to tap dance just so I could fit in. And so I bought a Groupon of 10 classes because my coworkers were doing it. And I was 2 classes in and about 2,000 shuffle steps before I was like, what am I doing? This was not the ease that I wanted. But do you know what those classes taught me? That the ease that I was looking for was to show up in spaces exactly like myself. Not fragments of me, but as my whole self. See, I thought that I just ran from the fire that night when I was 12 years old, but the truth is, I had been running from that fire every night since. But what I got wrong is that the fire did get into my pores. It never fully extinguished because the embers are still inside me. And if you look really closely and you squint, you'll see it inside the stories that I share and the communities I build, where the only requirement is to be unapologetically you. So when I'm asked to speak about ditching fears and breaking through mental barriers, I can do that because I've done it before, and I will continue to do it again. Because fear isn't something you only feel one time. Fear is something you feel, but you learn how to overcome. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So this is a little bit about me. It's kind of like that resume when you go out on a first date and you meet somebody and you say only the good parts, right? And you're not really talking about the messy middle. So I could tell you that I'm a marketer. I could tell you I have my own business, call you Wanna Do What. I'm a TEDx speaker, all that, but I'm always going to represent that I'm first gen from LeBron. But I want to tell you about that messy middle. So let's think about behind the bio, what that timeline looks like. And I used emojis because we all know emojis. We all speak emoji language. So the first 5 years out of school, it was great. I was excited. It was the most money that I ever made before. I was a young whippersnapper ready to go and climb that corporate ladder. And after 5 years, I moved on to a different role. And you can see there, I started to really feel pain. And those tears, they're not just a metaphor. I would cry tears because I really hated at that point what I was doing. I felt so disconnected from my purpose and my profession, and it was a struggle. And then I moved on. And years 8 to 12, it was apathy. I wasn't happy, I wasn't sad, but I said, well, it's called work, it's not called fun. So I just kind of rode that wave. And then around year 15, I started to feel discontentment. It started to feel like I was wearing clothes that didn't fit any longer. And I knew I had to make a change. And I share this because all those things on the bio that come after marketer happened after I got over my fear. After I became so uncomfortable with my current situation that I knew I needed to change it. And so that's the beauty. It doesn't matter how long your journey has been, there's always an opportunity to change it and have something different. So what exactly changed? What was the difference? The difference was this: my mindset. My mindset completely changed. I went from someone who was happy to crying to apathetic to discontent to someone that became empowered. But how did I do that? And it began with the realization that I get to choose my thoughts. Circumstances, the external events, the systemic oppression, all the external things that we have to work against are always going to be there. But the one thing that I can always control is how I view it. So let's get into it. 99% of the people in this world are convinced they're incapable of achieving great things, so they aim for the mediocre. I don't know what you think when you hear this quote, but that makes me sad. That makes me angry. That makes me feel like I want to shake people and individually tell them that they are capable of so much more. And do not settle for mediocre, because ain't shit fun about mediocres. So now let's look at this. I'm going to go up through 4 steps. I call it the R4 method, and it's for reframing your thoughts. And the very first thing you want to do is recognize the thought. What is the thought that you're having? Is it, I hate this job? Is it, I can't do this anymore? Is it, I don't want my life to be like this? I can't believe I ended up here? Identify the thought. The first thing is to recognize it. Once you're able to recognize it, you have an opportunity to stop it. Because what happens is we get the thought and then we keep running with the thought. And it becomes this tiny little snowball until it's a big avalanche. And so right at that first step, we want to recognize it. The next thing we want to do is relate it to our experience. Where is this thought coming from? And it's all connected to something else. If you think that $20 is a lot of money, $20 is a lot of money because something in your biography has told you that it's a lot of money. Someone else has told you that it's a lot of money. And you've adopted that idea and you've accepted it as truth. But is that really the truth? So I want you to recognize it and then identify what part of you it's actually coming from. Because every single thought, from what you chose to wear today to how you chose to walk here, every single thing is determined by your thoughts, either consciously or subconscious. And we want you to be very conscious about everything you're thinking and everything you're doing. The next step after that is we want to remove the feeling. So if it's, I hate my job or I don't make enough money, when we remove the feeling, the answer becomes, my current role is not the one for me. Very neutral. I know I no longer want to be in this position. It's neutral. We're not putting any emotions to it. If we say, I am always going to be broke, the answer is right now, I have X amount of money in the bank. And maybe the answer is right now, I have zero in the bank. But you're removing the emotion from it because the emotion is what gets us riled up, right? You saw this today and you came because there was an emotion attached to what you read. It either got you excited, it got you curious, it got you interested, but the emotion is what put your body in this seat today. So we want to go and remove the feeling and make sure that it's neutral. And then last, we want to reach for a new thought. You get to choose what your thought is going to be. So you can say, I am so motivated to find a new job. I am so determined to connect with 3 people in this room today and tell them what I do. But you get an opportunity to choose the new thought. And at first, this is difficult. It takes some time. It takes a little practice. You might say, there's no way I could change my whole life simply by changing my thoughts. But you are with yourself every day, all day, thinking all these thoughts. What if you decided to choose something else? What if you decided, instead of believing what people have taught us, that this isn't for us, that we're not designed to get to that level, you start believing that you are made for it. The difference between a good life and a bad life is how well you walk through the fire. So take action as the antidote of fear and put in your mind, like that fire, all you do is shine. Thank you.